Good morning. On this rainy morning in northern Indiana, I'd like to take a few minutes to relay my experience with a recent property that I had under contract that ultimately didn't go through. It was a small multifamily property. Uh, there are some things I think we can learn from books and podcasts and leveraging other people's experience, but some things we just have to learn by going through the process. And I think to some degree, this was that for me. And um, you know, so um, the most important of the things I learned, I think, is that in coordinating all of these steps required to get to closing on a property where you are investing alongside other investors, I, as the manager, bringing in other people to invest alongside me, you really need to have all the documentation and the structure of the deal well worked out up front so that you have time to uh, allow the investors to do their due diligence, transfer the money into the account associated with the investment, so that then the bank can move toward closing, knowing that that money is in place. Um, that takes quite a while, and so beginning that process early on and really knowing what the deal is going to look like very early on in terms of investment and return and split between manager and passive investors. All of that needs to be really firmed up, really well described very early on, as early on as you can do it. And I kind of thought I had the idea that I would. In the process of gathering investors, I would learn what was most attractive to them, and that put me kind of behind the eight ball and and slowed the whole process down a little bit. Uh, the other thing I learned is that likely whatever documentation around rent roll and expenses you get early on in the process, that's likely the all you're going to get from the seller, particularly in these properties that are smaller multifamily properties. Maybe they've been kind of managed by the owner, and perhaps there's some room for value, increasing the value of the property through more professional management. That by definition means that maybe there's the records haven't been kept as well as you would keep them yourself. And so in this property, I made the mistake of uh, waiting for sort of documentation about income and expenses that just didn't exist, and I won't do that in the future. I think what you get is what you get up front, and then you need to make decisions based on that, and not be waiting for further evidence of income or expenses. The other thing I'll say is that this was a bit of a stretch for me, and that it was going to be a medium-term and short-term rental property, and that was a new skill set for me. I think there's actually somebody's going to make a lot of money on this property managing in that way, but it was going to be a stretch for me, and that was going to take additional time and some additional risk on to make that work, and that began to feel increasingly uncomfortable, and in a way, and so in the future, I have my defined criteria. I should stick with those. It's a certain number of units, a certain cost, in a certain location, and a certain class, and with expected return metrics. And I had, I jumped to this property because it was really beautifully renovated and in a neat area, and I liked the idea of owning it, and I thought there was a lot of upside on it, so I kind of jumped at it. But that is not something I'll do again, and I will stick very strictly now to the properties I've defined in the past as what I'm interested in. And lastly, I think the at the end of the day, I understand that this is part of the process, that in order to make sure that investors are protected and that I'm doing the responsible thing with investor money and having the best chance of a good return on these investments, that being willing to not go through with a contract when the due diligence doesn't support it is really important. Really important to be able to say, well, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. It looked like a good deal, turned out not to be as good a deal as I thought, or here's these obstacles, or here's these things that increase risk, uncomfortably so, and we're not going to go through with it. That's a really valuable lesson. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know if you've had any similar experiences that relate to what I've just been talking about, and thank you for taking the time to hear about my experience.